#1 Auto Racing Network presents Auto Racing 85. We welcome you to Pocono International Raceway, where the temperature is 80 degrees under partly cloudy, hazy skies. Winds are 5 to 15 miles an hour. Humidity is 60%, and there's about a 30% chance of rain this afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bob Jenkins, along with Larry Newber, and welcome to this ARCA Challenge race. 15 top drivers set to go. To get an invitation to this race, you have to be a previous winner or a high-finishing non-winner.
Well, it's like a bush clash or an enlarged helmet dash for this division, the ARCA racers. Now, these cars are very similar to NASCAR Grand National race cars, and this race gives us an opportunity to see the best from ARCA against the very best. And for the drivers, it's a welcome opportunity. They don't have to worry about the rest of the field. It's just the guys who run up front going against one another. Now, the defending champion is Bob Dotter. He is a three-time champion of ARCA. He's a 50-plus-year-old grandfather, but he's not one of the favorites for today's race.
One driver who did receive an invitation to this race but will not be competing, Davey Allison.
Well, given his performance on super speedways in recent years, Davey would have been the hands-down favorite to win this race, but something unusual happened this week. His father, Bobby Allison, needed some help, and when Bobby needed the help, Davey said, "Yeah, Dad, I'll come along, I'll give you some help." So even though he's not the favorite, or was not the favorite in the race because he's not in it, the field does appear to be wide open. But Davey, an unusual situation.
Let's get more on the Davey Allison situation by going to our pit reporter for the afternoon. Here is Jack Arute.
Gentlemen, normally Davey Allison at this point in time would be suiting up in his Miller American fire suit and getting ready to do battle with the ARCA group, but instead he's helping out his father, Bobby, prepare for tomorrow's 500-miler here at Pocono. Davey, your dad took the car keys away from your race car. He needs it tomorrow, so now you're on the pit crew.
Yeah, with all the latest developments, Jackie, we've decided that this car would be the best to run the Grand National race for Dad, so we just turned it over to him and got it ready for this race, and we're going to do the best we can in the Grand National race. And unfortunately, that means missing the ARCA race today.
Well, Bobby Allison, I know all fathers have always tried to have that opportunity to ground their son, but I've never seen it done in racing before.
Well, I'll tell you, and it's an opportunity that we had to take, but I wish we could have avoided. I'd like to see Davey running the race today, but like he said, the other ARCA car that we have is prepared for him for Talladega, and we really didn't have an alternative, and plus we had an awful lot of work for everyone to do just getting here with this. So everybody threw in their hands, and Wayne Baumgartner and Bo Brady, and of course Davey and Grady and Clifford and all the crew back at the shop, and all the help along with them, you know, Jerry and Larry and Bill and Rick, and you know, everybody that threw in a hand this week. We really did appreciate it, and we really do appreciate it. And it was a tremendous effort because a week ago we were not in any way, shape, or form ready to go out racing anywhere other than the ARCA races that Davey had scheduled.
Well, we'll get to see Bobby Allison tomorrow, and Davey Allison as well, because he'll change the right front tire for Bobby Allison, his dad. Let's go back upstairs right now.
Thank you, Jack. The ARCA All-Star Challenge is being brought to you by Ford, who invite you to drive the new Ford Escort. Have you driven a Ford lately? And by Goodyear, makers of the high-performance radial, the Eagle. And by Mr. Goodwrench and General Motors Parts. We'll be right back with more from Pocono International Raceway right after these messages. Back at Pocono International Raceway, where the ARCA Challenge race just about to go for the command to start engines. Let's go to Jack Arute in the pit area for that command.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again,
well, they're just about ready to get underway here. Jim Fitzpatrick from Fram Automotive, the Grand Marshal, is about to intone the words.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
field roars to life and will be pulling out onto the 2.5-mile tri-oval for a couple of warm-up laps before getting the green flag. Drivers getting their goggles on and making sure the belts are fastened securely before taking to the high-speed raceway. Now let's take a look at the starting lineup for today's ARCA Challenge race here at Pocono International Raceway. On the pole in car number 98 from Hamilton, Ohio, and their Gurney engine Chevrolet will be Tom Meinberg, the pole sitter for today's race. Starting alongside in row number 1 will be car number 26, Walt Bolden from Farmington, Michigan, in the Ford Carlite Glass Ford. In the third starting position, Bosco Lowe, car number 38, the Writers Floor Store Pontiac. Outside of row number 2 will be Dave Simcoe in car number 51 in the Mound Steel Company Tomco Buick. Starting in fifth position in car number 1 from Dayton, Ohio, Lee Raymond in the Riverside Auto Parts Chevrolet. Outside of row number 3, car number 71, Bobby Jacks from Huber Heights, Ohio, in the Green Tree Nursery Oldsmobile. In the seventh starting position, car number 42 from Sterling Heights, New York, in the Prime Design Buick, Roger Blackstock. Starting outside of row number 4, car number 34, Bob Reback from Ashland, Wisconsin, in the Race Glaze Pontiac. In ninth position, car number 12, Kirk Bryant from Thomasville, North Carolina, in the Alucard Pontiac. In 10th position, outside of row number 5, Bob Schacht in car number 75, the Engineered Fasteners Pontiac. Starting inside of row number 6, car 83, Bob Dotter from Chicago in the Computer Advisory Pontiac. In 13th position, car number 3, Richard Hampton from Brooks, New York, in the Big John's Pontiac. Starting in 14th position, car number 35, Bill Venturini from Chicago in the Northtown Auto Concrete Chevrolet. Then Gene Marmer in car number 50 outside of row number 7 from North Lake, Illinois, in the Lombard Auto Wreckers Pontiac. Car number 61 will be driven by Glenn Sears from Apex, North Carolina, in the Performance Engineers Pontiac. And starting in last position, car number 56, Howard Rose from Ashland, Kentucky, in the Performance Engineering Pontiac. Those are the starters for the race. We have just been given information that Walt Bolden in car number 26, who was supposed to start outside of row number 1, will not be starting, so everybody will move up one position, 15 starters.
Well, Bob, the number 56 we're looking at right there of Howard Rose, what an unusual story. This is a brand new car for him. He has never driven power steering and never been on this racetrack. This is the first time he's seen the blacktop.
While the cars are on their 2 warm-up laps, we're going to take this break and be right back for the start of the ARCA Challenge race from Pocono International Raceway. We are back at Pocono, and here's a description of the racetrack that they'll be competing on this afternoon. It's a 2.5-mile tri-oval, a 3,740-foot front stretch and a 3,055-foot back stretch. The short straightaway between turns 2 and 3, 1,780 feet in length. There are 3 turns. Turn number 1 is 675 feet of radius and 14 degrees of banking. Turn number 2, called the tunnel turn, 750 feet of radius and 8 degrees of banking. And turn number 3 is the flat corner, 800 feet radius and only 6 degrees of banking. We take a look at some of the starters in today's race. There's the number 56 of Howard Rose, who hails from Ashland, Kentucky.
Well, it's been a long night for some of these teams who are preparing for this race, and it's been a long night for this Ashland, Kentucky team. This is just a 21-year-old race driver, Howard Rose. He won the award for the most improved driver of last season. They gave the Rookie of the Year award to Davey Allison. No surprise there, as he did so well in the super speedways, but they've had trouble with the engine in this car this weekend here at Pocono. They've been thrashing away on the race car all night and all morning long, and they just got it done in time to come out onto the racetrack.
Glenn Sears will start in car number 61. He's already won a couple of races this year in ARCA.
As a matter of fact, Bob, he won 2 of the first 4 ARCA races that he ever competed in. This is one of those budget operations. You know, this is a semi-pro league, eventually, for some of these drivers, leading on to Grand National stock car racing. And Glenn Sears really works on a shoestring, but they have really maximized their investment, winning races with a dirt track motor in a weekend when the tow car broke down to the racetrack.
An interesting combination right beside Glenn Sears of Bill Venturini, car number 35. He has an all-female pit crew. And besides that, he's a name that's been in stock car racing for many years, used to run on the USAC circuit.
Yeah, and he's been very fast in ARCA racing. He's been very fast at this racetrack. This is a former Wayne Lensing chassis, by the way. You remember the guy who used to run Sportsman and ASA cars? Wayne built very strong and fast race cars, and Venturini has made the most of it.
Dayton, Ohio's Lee Raymond will be driving car number 1, the Riverside Auto Parts Chevrolet.
The drivers tell us that this guy has been one of the consistent fast drivers in practice this weekend for ARCA here at Pocono International Raceway. The car was specially fabricated in shops in Columbus, Ohio. It's wrenched by a long-time, very successful mechanic in late model racing, Jerry Guerra. He has not won a race yet this year, although he leads the point standings. He's been very consistent. The engine has proved to be very reliable, and a lot of the crews are saying this might be the guy we got to beat this weekend here at Pocono.
It's a 60-lap, 150-mile race that they'll be running here this afternoon. It does not count toward ARCA points. This is the 10th race of the year for these drivers. They have just exited the tunnel turn now. Turn number 2 are on the short straight, and this time around they should be getting the green flag.
Even though this is classified as a super speedway because of its length, a lot of these ARCA drivers don't have super speedway cars, or some of them are saving them for a race at Talladega in about a week. In all, there are 7 short track cars in this field of 15. There are 4 teams that are actually one-car operations, and the car starting on the pole is actually a very, very old machine. Originally designed for dirt track racing, if you can believe that. Some 7-8 years ago, Tommy Meinberg got this car out of California, but he continues to run it on the long tri-ovals like this, as well as the short tracks like Flat Rock Speedway, where this field recently ran just a quarter-mile racetrack a week ago.
Pace car pulls into the pit area. The field comes down, and the green flag comes out. This ARCA Challenge race is underway. Tom Meinberg with a very bad start at car number 98. He drops back and is being passed by several competitors as the field heads for turn number 1. Looks like that Bosco Lowe in that yellow car on the outside will
and I think Lee Raymond is the other one, Bob. If everybody was right about how strong he's going to be, what a start for Lee Raymond.
Oh, and we have trouble already in turn number 1. A couple of cars have made contact with the wall. That is
Venturini is one of them. And the other one,
number 3 of Richard Hampton, also involved. Venturini is the car that has come to a rest in the middle of the racetrack in turn number 1.
Absolutely. Venturini was one of the guys who probably would have been in it for at least the lead and maybe the win. He started back in the pack in 13th starting position. He was originally assigned 14th, but with the scratch position start of Howard Rose, Venturini was probably trying to make up ground, and he's in trouble.
And we take a look at it on the replay to try to determine what happened.
Boy, the car just made a right-hand turn. I don't know exactly what happened. It didn't look like that Bill made a mistake. It looked like something broke in the race car.
It did indeed, because he took a hard shot into that outside boilerplate retaining wall. Venturini's car is in turn number 1. Also involved Richard Hampton, but he continues to run on the racetrack. We'll be right back with more in just a moment. The ARCA Challenge race has been interrupted on the very first lap by a crash down in turn number 1. Bill Venturini was the car that made hard contact with the outside wall.
Now watch for a white car down on the bottom of the screen. You see the car making a hard right-hand turn and doing a reverse spin into the wall. And as I mentioned earlier, normally that has nothing to do with the man sitting behind the cockpit. That's something in the equipment that caused that. Here's the 83 Rookie of the Year, Bill Venturini, and there is wife Kathy, who is looking on. Kathy, of course, heads up the all-girl pit crew, showing a little bit of concern on her face. There are the rest of the crew members, very disappointed, obviously, after this premature ending to their day.
He took a hard shot to the wall. The ambulance is there, and Bill is still in the race car. We cannot tell at the moment whether Bill is injured in any way. Let's go down to the pit area and Jack Arute.
Well, I'm with Kathy Venturini, and Kathy, you were having some problems talking to Bill. The radios weren't operating, but now you have been in contact with him. He's okay?
He says nothing's broken, but he's staying put right now. I'm waiting for word to hear if he's going into the infield hospital or not.
A tough break for a crew chief, but more so for a wife as well. I know you want to get over there and figure things out, but everybody was looking forward to seeing you gals in action this afternoon.
We were looking forward to doing it today.
Well, it's a tough break. Dispirited and disheartened as they are, you can be sure they'll be at Talladega next week, though.
Well, Bill's car is on the back of the wrecker and is being taken off of the racetrack. Let's take a look at the top 6 as they stand right now. Lee Raymond is your leader. Bosco Lowe running second, and Bobby Jacks is third. Running in 4th spot is Kirk Bryant, then Dave Simcoe is 5th, and Bob Shack running in 6th position. We're under yellow at Pocono. We'll take this break and be right back with more.
We're back here at Pocono International Raceway, and following up on the condition of Bill Venturini, we've checked with the hospital. In fact, we spoke directly to Bill as he was being unloaded. His leg is indeed sore. He does not feel, unmedically, as he's accounting to it, that he's not got any broken bones. But his shoulder area has been immobilized as well, and I wanted to show you why that might have occurred. You look at the car here, and he has taken a rap, a very severe one. It shifted everything around inside the car, but it remained intact, and that's what's so important with these race cars when you're traveling at 150, 160 miles an hour, that the driver's cockpit area remains intact and safe. And that's what happened for Bill Venturini, and he's speaking and chatting and talking to his wife Kathy right now.
All right, thanks, Jack, for the update on the condition of Bill Venturini. There is Lee Raymond in car number 1. He is the current leader of this race. Now, the yellow light on top of the pace car has been turned out. We should be going back to green here as they come down.
Bob, these cars probably reach speeds about 165 miles per hour at the end of the long, almost 2/3 of a mile, I guess 2/3 of a mile straightaway. And they slow down going into the high bank first turn, maybe about 35, 40 miles an hour. So the collision that Venturini had was at well above 120 miles an hour, probably.
The green flag comes out, and we go back to racing on lap number 6 here at Pocono. The ARCA Challenge back underway after the accident on lap number 1. A lot of dicing going on in the back of the pack, while the front part of the pack stays pretty much in single file as they go into that very high bank turn number 1. Lee Raymond showing the way. Bosco Lowe is running in 2nd position. And the number 71 of Bobby Jacks is running 3rd. They come off of corner number 2 onto the Long Pond straightaway.
Bob, I would predict the guy to watch for is the modified looking number 75. It's a white car, Bob Shack. He's another guy like Venturini and Davey Allison who has done very well on fast racetracks. Shack got through that first lap confusion in good condition. He's running up in the top 5, and there is Glenn Sears in the blue number 61. He's another guy who has won recently on this trail. We told you earlier he won 2 of the first 4 races he ever entered in, and he reserves his competition in ARCA for the fast tracks and the big ovals and tri-ovals like here at Pocono. And there is Shack in the bottom right-hand side of your screen, also making a move up.
Glenn Sears in car number 61, currently running in 8th position.
There are the first 4 cars. Lee Raymond continues to hold on to the lead as they go through the 14-degree, 675-foot corner number 1. There's Sears once again. Sears now moving in, and Bobby Breback. Bobby Breback in that yellow and white number 34 is somebody who was very fast in practice this weekend here at Pocono. By the way, that's a former Levi Garrett machine, or a former car that Joe Ruttman used to compete on the Grand National Trail.
And right ahead of Bob Breback is Dave Simcoe in car number 51. Dave has driven in a couple of Grand National races competing here this afternoon. So we have Simcoe, then Breback, Glenn Sears, as they go off of Long Pond straightaway, and Breback and Sears moving to the inside of Dave Simcoe and moving up positions.
Now, this is not a high-banked racetrack, so drafting is not quite as much of a factor as it is on some of the super speedways of the South. But when you're in the right position like Sears was in that position, it does become a bit of a factor. He just nestled in behind Bobby Breback. He saw that Breback was going to go around Simcoe. And between the two of them, they kind of ganged up on poor Davey, the guy from Michigan, and moved to the inside going into the tunnel corner.
Breback running in 6th spot and Glenn Sears in 7th. Meanwhile, a battle for 2nd beginning to shape up as Lee Raymond continues to lead. Bosco Lowe in the yellow car, followed rather closely by Bobby Jacks in 71.
Well, Bobby Jacks is another veteran dirt tracker. We have seen him win on ESPN at the Eldora high-banked half-mile dirt racetrack, and guess what? This same car. So we told you earlier, some of these teams are budget operations. It's economy racing. It's one of the semi-pro leagues of full-bodied stock car racing, and Bobby Jacks is one of those guys who has maximized really the effort and the investment in this car. He has been able to run competitively, obviously a challenging 3rd position to this man, the leader right now, Lee Raymond. but Jacks has been able to run competitively on all kinds of racetracks.
The current ARCA Talladega Series points leader, Lee Raymond, is leading, but you can see that the interval between himself and Bosco Lowe is only just a few car lengths. Raymond getting very high in turn number 1. The rear end of the car got sideways just a little bit, but Lee Raymond saved it.
I'll tell you, as we watch Glenn Sears in that blue 61, he's gotten around Breback, and now he's turning the heat up on Kirk Bryant. One thing about Raymond's move there in the first turn, had that happen, and there goes Breback on the high side. We'll get back to the Raymond story in just a second. Let's see what Breback and Sears do. They go down the Long Pond backstretch. They're approaching turn number 2, the most precarious place on this racetrack. Sears blast into the corner, but Bobby Breback closes the door. Good's also going on between Breback and Sears, and Kirk Bryant watching in the rearview mirror.
5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th here. Kirk Bryant in 5th position, and Bob Breback in car number 34 is running 6th. But look at Glenn Sears sneak right up on the back bumper of Bob Breback in the tunnel turn, battling for 6th position. Now Bob Breback looking to the inside of Kirk Bryant as they come down the main straightaway and complete lap number 10. Breback to the inside and Kirk Bryant to the outside. Right behind Bryant is Glenn Sears, and as the second place position about to change as Bobby Jacks goes to the inside of Bosco Lowe on the Long Pond straightaway. They battle side by side down the straightaway. I thought Jacks was going to move into second spot there as they came off the corner, but Bosco Lowe holds him off.
Lowe had the line because going into turn number 2, we told you it's bumpy, it's precarious. You really have to be set up just perfectly straight going in there, plus the cars have to more or less file down into a single file condition to go through that corner because it can be so potentially dangerous. So Lowe, there he is in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, had the line. Jacks right now seems to have the horsepower edge. I bet he gets him on the long straight. Let's see what happens. Jacks goes to the inside, but Lowe, he puts more coal into the boiler and seems to be pulling away a little bit, and Jacks tucks in behind.
Great battle for second position here. Bosco Lowe and the number 71 of Bobby Jacks. The number 56 of Howard Rose from Ashland, Kentucky has been black flagged. He is in the pit area and the car being examined by the crew. A little bit of smoke coming from the engine compartment of that race car. We go back to this battle for second spot. Bobby Jacks in the red, white, and blue car, and Bosco Lowe in car number 38 battle for second, while Lee Raymond in number 1 continues to be the leader. There he is, coming off of the tunnel turn onto the short straightaway.
Well, normally, Bob, when two guys like this do battle for a position right behind you, you lose ground, but these guys seem to be holding their own, maybe gaining a little bit on Lee Raymond. This is turn number 3 on this trioval. Remember, the drivers say this is sort of like the turn at Milwaukee to them, the 1 mile flat oval at the Milwaukee racetrack.
Bosco Lowe, Bobby Jacks, and the number 75 Bob Schacht has also joined this contest. He moves to the inside of Bobby Jacks now as they go into turn number 1. So a 3-car battle now becomes a 4-car contest.
Schacht has really used this opportunity to move up. I think if Jacks is going to get Bosco Lowe, I don't think he's going to get him here. It's got to be between, I believe, the tunnel turn and turn number 3. Jacks seems to be handling just a little bit better than Bosco Lowe, but you really have to have the advantage going into the tunnel turn in order to pass somebody. Right now, he's got to get momentum coming off the tunnel turn right there, then nestle up either on the high side or the low side of the number 38 car and get around. Now he's going to do it before we get to the big wide turn number 3, but not this time around, because Bosco Lowe seems to have the horsepower advantage coming down the long straightaway.
Good 4-car battle here for the lead. Now Bobby Jacks swinging to the outside.
He's going to give Schacht room.
Schacht to the inside. Schacht and Jacks battling for 3rd spot here. They cross the line and complete lap number 13. They'll have to get into single file as they go into corner number 1. We'll see who falls into 3rd spot. Looks like it's going to be Bobby Jacks holding on to the position.
Well, Bobby Jacks made the calculated move. Now he gets a good move on the inside of Bosco Lowe as we see Howard Rose come back out of the pits. Jacks has a little bit more of an advantage than he's had laps earlier, but not quite enough. He once again falls in behind Bosco, and there's the ever-present Bob Schacht. Now let's watch Schacht coming out of turn number 3. He seemed to gain the advantage that last lap.
Lee Raymond is their leader. Bosco Lowe running 2nd. Bobby Jacks is 3rd. As we continue to cover the ARCA Challenge race from Pocono International Raceway. We'll be back right after these messages. Bob Jenkins, Larry Newber, and Jack Arute back at Pocono International Raceway for the ARCA Challenge race. The leader, Bob Shack. Second place, Bobby Jacks. Third is Lee Raymond. And fourth is Bosco Lowe. In the first 20 laps of this race, we had 3 leaders, Raymond, Jacks, and Shack. And one thing that will be occurring here in the next few laps, pit stops. Here's Jack Arute with more on that.
Gentlemen, very shortly, this will become a very busy area. We figure the first set of pit stops, and what should be the only set of pit stops, will take place around lap 30 to lap 35. And when you survey this area, it's like a vast wasteland compared to what we normally see on the Winston Cup Grand National Tour. These guys are like circus performers. They only bring what's necessary and travel from racetrack to racetrack. As you can see, there's one air tank, a couple of tires, and maybe, well, 2 tanks of gas. That's all they feel they need. These aren't the well-heeled teams that we see every Sunday afternoon doing battle for 500 miles. So they just do the duty, send the car back out onto the racetrack, and hope that they've serviced it sufficiently to win an ARCA event.
Well, speaking of pit stops, Jack, Bob Breback made a quick tour through the pit area, did not stop, and I don't think it was going to be a scheduled stop, but Breback goes back out on the racetrack.
Well, that'll cost him. He was unofficially running in 7th position. As we look at the man who won the 1983 ARCA race here at Pocono, Shack, you can see he's opened up a little bit of an advantage. And somebody, Hampton.
Richard Hampton hits a wall outside of the tunnel turn, I believe. Hampton was into a spin in the very first lap accident involving Bill Venturini, and now Hampton himself makes contact with the wall.
Jacks is pitting, so the leaders may take this opportunity to come in. No, Jacks doesn't stop. His crew wasn't ready. Bobby Jacks, as we continue to watch it, Richard Hampton, who is moving around inside the race car. Jacks ducked into the pits, hoping to make a pit stop. I think he caught the crew unaware.
Richard Hampton hits the wall, brings out the second yellow of the day. Let's go down to Jack Arute.
Larry, he may have caught his crew off guard, but that was smart thinking on the part of Jacks. The caution car would not be dispatched this quickly. So in order not to have to take the chance of being put a lap down in this event, he went back out onto the racetrack, wait until the pace car is dispensed out onto the racetrack, and he can work under a little more leisurely terms when he puts himself on pit road.
And the pace car is just about to pull out onto the racetrack as the leaders come around. The leaders right now approaching turn number 3. So the yellow is out for the second time because of the Richard Hampton crash. Let's take a look at the tail end of the Richard Hampton crash. It's in the short chute between turns 2 and 3.
Well, Bob, what happens, particularly if you're not used to it or experienced in terms of going over the very rough turn number 2, it upsets the balance of the car, and everything is jostled around, and it takes you about half a straightaway to gather it back up. As we see our leaders, there's Lee Raymond coming in the Riverside number 1 car. Right behind him was Bobby Jacks. What happens when you go through turn number 2, it takes you a couple of seconds for that car to settle down and go straight, and it just never came back for Hampton.
Fuel is being put in the car, but you can see that there isn't quite the enthusiasm that we see in Grand National racing.
Well, a couple things are going on. Of course, this is a yellow flag, and it really is an advantage in an ARCA race to be able to pit under the yellow flag, because as both you and Jack have mentioned, these guys are not accustomed to making pit stops. A lot of the races that they race at are on little quarter-mile paved racetracks up and down the state of Michigan, Ohio, Indiana. They just don't have to make rapid pit stops in order to do well. There you see Bobby Jacks taking off. So not only are they not as experienced, but this is a yellow flag condition, but it really does help everybody. Everybody should get out of there in good fashion. I suggest, by the way, that this might help Lee Raymond more than anybody else. They obviously wanted to change the weight around in that race car, make it handle just a little bit better, and now they can do it under a leisure condition.
Kirk Bryant is also in the pit area, and so is Howard Rose in car number 56. The yellow is out. We'll be right back with more of the ARCA Challenge race. ESPN's live coverage of the PBA Summer Bowling Tour continues on Wednesday, July 24th with exclusive live coverage of the $115,000 Austin Open. Pete Weber, one of the top leading money winners on the tour, defends his title in Austin. Wednesday, July 24th, as our coverage of the Professional Bowling Association continues.
You know, I don't know really what it is about the sport, Bob, because it doesn't really relate directly to anything that I've ever done for any length of time in my life.
It's certainly not racing.
I know,
it's a totally
but
different
I
sport.
like bowling, and I even have a couple of favorites, as a matter of fact. Mike Albee and Wayne Webb, both of them have come from other parts of the country and live in Indianapolis, and I just enjoy watching them bowl because they win a lot.
There you can see Richard Hampton's car is under its own power after an encounter with the wall between turns 2 and 3. Tow truck is at the rear of the car, but it looks like he could get a push start and perhaps even rejoin the field.
You know, that's something I've always wanted to do, was bowl a 300. I came close one time in college, believe it or not. Yeah, I threw 10 strikes
Close
in one
meaning
game.
189 or something?
Well, I cheated a little bit. No, it was actually sanctioned stuff, but that's a good sport. It truly is.
You're watching the ARCA Challenge race on ESPN this afternoon. And the leader at this point is Lee Raymond. We're under yellow. Pit stops have occurred, so when we go back to green, we should have some great competition. Stay with us.
Race drivers do funny things when they don't have to be inside the race car. That's the case this afternoon for Grand National regular Phil Parsons. Phil, you're out here working the pit board for Roger Blackstock. Now, how did you get hornswaggled into this deal?
Oh, Roger's a good friend, a good family friend for years. He's from the same hometown I am in Detroit, and he used to help me on my baby grandcar when I first started racing. So he just got started a couple years ago, and I'm trying to help him out a little bit. But he's doing a good job. He's never been on many super speedways. This is his first time here, and his prime design Buick's running fairly well. He's staying in the same lap, so he should have a good shot at a good finish.
Were you able to give him any inside secrets about Pocono? You've got quite a few miles here.
Well, I tried to. You know, he didn't get hardly any practice, so I just told him to take it easy and just learn the racetrack. I said, what you need to do is get 150 miles experience and not really worry about where you run. But, you know, when you feel comfortable, then go for it.
We're about ready to get back to green. You've got to get back to work, and we've got to go back upstairs.
All right, thank you, Jack. The field is in quarter number 3 now, and the pace car is exiting the racetrack, and we are under green once again. The leader is Lee Raymond as they come down. Bobby Jacks in second position, followed by Glenn Sears, Kirk Bryant, Bob Shack, Bosco Lowe, and Howard Rose.
Well, Jacks really went for it, but we told you earlier, Raymond's engine really seemed to be developing the horses, and it didn't take too long for Lee Raymond to say, hey, Bobby, there's no way you're going to get by me on this front stretch. See what happens as they go in through turn number 1, turn number 2. Seemed like Raymond that time held his own down the long pond backstretch. Jacks will follow in behind Raymond as they go over turn number 2.
And a 3-car battle here down the long pond straightaway. The number 38 yellow car is Bosco Lowe, then Bob Shack right alongside, and Kirk Bryant is on the outside of the racetrack.
You can see Bryant really had to slow down because he was definitely out of the groove going over the tunnel turn, turn number 2, and it cost him some ground. There's Shack moving by. Now Shack runs in 4th position. Remember, he made an extra pit stop during the yellow.
An update on the condition of Bill Venturini, who was involved in the accident on lap number 1. He is conscious. He does have a possible concussion and has been transported to a local hospital for further observation. The leader up front, Lee Raymond. Right behind him is Bobby Jacks and then Glenn Sears, who has come from that starting position toward the rear of the field. Sears now running 3rd. Here's the battle for 4th, and Jacks takes the lead as Raymond's car once again just a little bit out of the groove.
Bobby Jacks bided his time. He stayed right with it. He followed Lee Raymond and waited for that moment to come again. And Bobby Jacks has shown us he appears to be the guy to beat so far in this race. Now, unless something really unusual happens, everybody probably has made their pit stop. Watch Raymond use the power underneath the hood of that Chevrolet, move up on Jacks. When they get into the corners, Jacks really has the advantage. This is a handling trap. A lot of the drivers will tell you they really like this speedway because the driver can make a difference, and I do believe that Bobby Jacks is making a difference. Look at Raymond. He's way up high out of the groove. He's about a car width and a half out of the lane.
But look at 3rd, 4th, and 5th sneak up on Lee Raymond, Glenn Sears, Bosco Lowe, and Bob Shack. It becomes a 5-car race, and we're yellow once again. We are yellow. Bob Breback spinning momentarily out of control, coming out of corner number 3, spinning to the inside of the racetrack, and coming to a halt at the entrance to the pit area.
Well, I think we see some oil coming from underneath. Yes, we do, from Bobby Breback's car. Something bursting in the machine, lots of smoke coming from under the hood. He may have blown an engine or may have just popped an oil line. No, I'd say that's an engine, the way the smoke is continuing to come out. Lucky for Bobby, probably, that he got off of the accelerator. The yellow flag had come out, and maybe he slowed down just enough to save him, but anxious moments there for Bob Breback.
It was a good job of driving by Bob Breback as they came off corner number 3. Look how out of control he is, but manages to keep from hitting anything.
Well, maybe that was Harold Kinder, Bob. I'm not sure. There's Breback, the car out of control, sliding in its own oil, headed down for 2 rows of cement there, the ones that separate the pit area from the racetrack and separate the pit area from the spectators. And I'm not exactly sure why Harold Kinder threw the yellow flag, but it may have been, Bob, but he was right on the ball. He saw the smoke coming out from underneath Bobby Breback's car and dropped the yellow.
Let's go down to the pit area once again.
Well, as you watch Bob Breback's car being pushed down pit road, notice the gentleman that's pushing on the left rear area. He's got a number 34 Breback Racing Team shirt on, but it happens to be Davey Allison. Allison just can't get enough of this pit work. He's got to go back out and work for somebody else this afternoon.
Well, you can see Davey there helping push that car. They're going to push it behind the wall, I'm sure. The engine on that car has expired. The halfway point has been reached in this race. In fact, lap number 31 has just been completed. We are under yellow for the 3rd time this afternoon. And we might take this opportunity to tell you that we'll be right back here tomorrow live on ESPN for a Grand National race beginning at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. We'll be right back with more from Pocono. On Wednesday, July 25th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, join us for Top Rank Boxing, an ESPN lightweight tournament final Western Division featuring Victor Acosta from New York against Gary Williams from Pomona, California. In our junior welterweight tournament finals Western Division bout will feature Jamie Ollenberger against Ali Muhammad. These fights from the Showboat Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada, Wednesday, July 25th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time.
You know, Bob, the boxing has been consistently one of the highest rated shows on ESPN. A couple years ago, ESPN debuted the idea of having an ESPN belt, and some people in other forms of media might have considered that a little bit of fluff or maybe unnecessary. Hi to everybody from the Jack's crew. But a lot of the people who won ESPN crowns went on to greater heights in the world of boxing. So the fighters have taken the ESPN series very seriously. The people who watch television have responded very positively. It's a good series for television, boxing on ESPN.
Jack Arute is at the head of the pit area. Jack?
And gentlemen, you can see the scars left from the Breback spin, but more importantly than that, take a look at the amount of speedy dry that's being put down. A lot of liquid was laid down, and this is going to, and I say going to possibly create a problem, at least something these drivers had better be concerned about. It's right in the middle of what you would call the groove, the entrance to pit road. If they come down here hot under green flag conditions, they'd really maybe have their hands full trying to hold on to a teeming group of horses as they come to a halt in the pits. We'll have to keep abreast of that and hope that maybe the rest of the pit stops will be under caution and they can go through their kind of tiptoey.
Well, Jack, I'll tell you, if Bob Shack is any indication, he may help the situation out. I've noticed he has pitted repeatedly under the last 2 caution flags. I'm puzzled a little bit because he's been very fast. He led this race early on, but apparently he's just not completely satisfied with the setup of the race car. He starts in the back of the pack again.
One of the things here, guys, you've got to understand is these are the weekend racers, so they have to do a little more of what you might call hunt and peck. Kind of look for the right setup. And so under a lot of cautions, they may, the smart ones, take advantage of it, come in, make a small chassis adjustment, radio back to the crew on their CB radios, and say, hey, that worked out pretty good, guys. Next caution, we'll try this. So this is really a lot of experimentation going on when they have a lot of cautions. And normally in ARCA races, we've got a lot of them.
Jack, as you look behind you, we've noticed they have put out a considerable amount of oil drive, but it's basically at the entrance to the pit area. Is there any oil up in the 3rd turn area itself?
As far as we could see, Bob, no. And the thing to impress upon our viewers is the fact that that speedy dry is down there for a reason. That's to absorb the lubricants and the water that's gone down. Now, they're getting ready to go back to green, and we'll keep you abreast of what's going on down here.
All right, good enough. Pace car is off the racetrack, and the green comes out once again. Lap number 33 will be completed as they cross the stripe. Bobby Jacks, Lee Raymond, And Bosco Lowe running up front. Now in 4th position is the number 83 of Bob Dotter.
Well, Shaq is the white car on the far right-hand side of your screen, way in the back of the pack there, and I would expect him to move up toward the front. He made those extra pit stops we were referring to and has to start behind everybody else. There is the leader, Bobby Jacks, coming through. Lee Raymond, despite all the difficulties he's had in keeping that Tiger on the racetrack, he continues to motor in 2nd. Bosco Lowe and the yellow cars had a good race. He is 3rd. There's Raymond going over turn number 2. And watch for Shaq to possibly move back up again.
Well, Lee Raymond's car appears to be handling a little bit better than it was earlier in the race. Well, at least we haven't seen the rear end of that car get out from under him in the last few laps. Bosco Lowe now putting pressure on Lee Raymond in the tunnel turn.
Bobby wiggled a little bit that time coming through turn number 2. Look at that Jerry Guerra motor move up on Bobby Jacks once again. Bobby Jacks and Lee Raymond are a couple of guys who have raced against each other many, many times. They're a couple of Ohioans.
The number 42 car, Roger Blackstock from Sterling Heights, New York, is slow on the racetrack. We talked to Phil Parsons just a few minutes ago. That's who he's helping. It looks like that Roger is going to be bringing that car into the pit area. The race goes on, however, and Lee Raymond has shot back into the lead, but he's sideways in turn number 1 again. Oh! Just as we mentioned seconds ago that the car appeared to be handling better, he got way high in turn number 1.
Boy, he is having one thrilling ride to that. He alone has been worth the price of admission. You know, one thing to be kind and to be fair as I look at Bosco Lowe to the number 42 car, Roger Blackstock. The entry list said Sterling Heights, New York. After listening to Phil Parsons, I'll bet you that's Sterling Heights, Michigan, because I'm from Toledo and I'm familiar with a Sterling Heights, Michigan, and I'll just bet you that's where he's really from.
There's the 2nd place car of Bosco Lowe, number 38, and there is Bobby Jacks right ahead of him. The average speed at the halfway mark, just as we were going yellow for the 3rd time because of the Bob Breback accident.
Here comes Bosco.
103.250, and Bosco Lowe moves in the lead. Lowe making a pass on the inside of the racetrack right at the start-finish line, and Lowe moves into the lead. Jacks drops back to 2nd. Let's take a look once again at what happened just a lap ago when Lee Raymond got high in turn number 1 and lost a couple of positions.
Raymond goes into the turn with the lead, and you can see he is at least 2, maybe 3 car widths out of the groove, way up in the gray stuff, headed right for the cement. He somehow pulls the reins in, gathers it back in, and at least 2 people get by. Here comes champ Bob Dotter beginning to challenge Raymond, but he gets back down in front of Dotter.
We are more than halfway through this 60-lap, 150-mile ARCA Challenge race. And at the halfway point, the average speed 103.250. There were 3 leaders and 4 lead changes, 2 caution periods for a total of 9 laps. Those cars that have dropped out of the race, Bill Venturini because of an accident in turn number 1 on lap number 1. Richard Hampton also had contact with the wall between turns 2 and 3, and Bob Breback spun after blowing an engine and dropped out of the race. The top 10 at this point show that Bobby Jacks at the halfway point was the leader. Lee Raymond was 2nd, followed by Glenn Sears, Bosco Lowe, and Bob Schacht. In 6th spot was Bob Dotter. 7th was Dave Simcoe. Roger Blackstock was 8th. Don Marber 9th. And Kirk Bryant was 10th. His positions have changed since that time, however.
You know, Bob, ARCA has been a very interesting chapter in auto racing in America. Some people from time to time refer to this as the crash and burn division, and I think they're a little overly maligned, to tell you the truth. This is one of the semi-pro leagues that hopefully for some people will be the beginning of a trail that eventually will lead to Grand National racing. And the fact of the matter is, these guys make a lot of sacrifices to go racing. Many of them have other full-time jobs. They put everything they have, their heart and their soul, and all of their extra money into this type of racing. They go out to prove something. They run on the big tracks, and they go for it. Yeah, sometimes there are crashes, but I tell you, it's not necessarily a negative thing. Here's a division of guys who go out to go racing at almost any cost, and as I mentioned, they do go for it.
One of the drivers out of the race is Bob Breback.
Bob, first of all, your condition. You're all right after that little loop-de-doo coming into the pits.
Oh, yeah, that was nothing. We just lost the motor and got sliding in our own oil.
It's kind of tough, though, when you got to look around, and every time you look up, you're seeing a different pit wall coming at you.
Yeah, I was trying to stay in between the two. I didn't like the looks of the end of that, the one out near the track.
having tested the rest of the competition just a tad, who do you think's got the advantage so far in this challenge race?
Well, there seems to be about 4 in the lead bunch that are running quite quick. They got a little ahead of us, but I was staying up there with Glenn Sears, and now he seems to be running up there at the lead pack, so it's hard to tell. I think maybe it's between Bosco and Bob Schacht.
Well, for Bob Grebeck, he's off the merry-go-round, and he's back here on pit road, and maybe, just maybe, looking to do a little relief driving.
Well, we can add another car driver combination to the list of out of the race. Roger Blackstock at number 42 out of competition. And side by side going into turn number 1, Glenn Sears in the blue car and Bob Schacht.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what Grebeck had to say. Schacht just looks strong, and even though he's not right up in the front right now, remember he made those extra pit stops, and I think he's just kind of biding his time. He's moved into the number 5 position, and he's shown some real power in the number 75 car in the early stages of this race. And given the combination of handling, setup, and power, Schacht looks to be the toughest right now, but I tell you, the guys up front doing a good job. Jack's having a strong race, challenging, as a matter of fact, Bosco Low, following him around almost as if they were tagged together, and Bob Dotter is showing some strength that we haven't seen in earlier stages of this race. Dotter, the champion, is running third and holding his own.
That's right. He has moved up and is locked in that 3rd spot now as Bosco Low receives a challenge from Bobby Jacks here on the main straightaway. Jacks tucked in right behind Bosco Low, and certainly on this long 3/5 of a mile straightaway, 3,700 feet in length, drafting is a factor in this type of racing.
Well, I think one of the strongest engines we have seen is Lee Raymond, that bright orange car. There's Jacks looking down on the inside of Bosco. Bosco says nothing doing. Raymond has got, I think, the strongest engine, or one of the strongest engines in this race. And if something would just click, or maybe he could find some new and unusual techniques, or the Great Sachs Daytona approach to chassis working, maybe that Raymond could come up and challenge for the lead again. But right now, he really has his hands full.
Bosco Low and Bobby Jacks are battling for the lead, and we saw a little bit of smoke coming from that number 71 car of Bobby Jacks, but I think maybe it was coming from the tires. I don't think it indicates any kind of a serious motor.
I think that was the residue, the fallout from the tunnel turn, because boy, it shoots the car like it's coming out of a cannon off of that corner.
We're glad you could join us this afternoon for our live coverage of this ARCA Challenge race from Pocono International Raceway. We've completed 40 out of 60 laps, and we'll be right back. Auto Light Challenge, sanctioned by the Automobile Racing Club of America, underway at Pocono International Raceway with 41 laps completed. And the leader is Bosco Low in car number 38. Bobby Jacks is running in 2nd position, and Larry will continuing to see smoke coming from that car. And the question becomes, is it tires or is it an engine problem?
Well, it would seem like it. Jacks is going to try Bosco on the high side, this time going into the high bank turn number 1. The smoke has only been coming out, and there is Bob Schacht, by the way, the white car number 75. Right now, let me step aside for a second. My pick to win, by the way, that white-orange numbered 75. Schacht looks like he's getting tire smoke, like he's getting tire rub on the fender of the car, but it seems to be getting heavier and heavier each lap. I don't know if that's engine or not. Now watch when he goes over the tunnel turn. The smoke should get heavy if the last 2 laps are any indication.
Watching for the smoke off Bobby Jacks, number 71. We've seen it at this portion of the racetrack the last couple of times now, but not real evident that time.
It must be tire, must be body rub, because the weight, he took the line through the tunnel turn that time that has a tendency to not shift the weight so violently as sometimes you have to take that weight shifting lane through the tunnel turn, and that time there was no smoke. Now Jacks has good momentum coming out of turn number 3. He'll look to the high side of Bosco Low. I think he's going to think the better of it, but he's got to pay attention to Bob Schacht, because that guy has moved up. And here comes Schacht.
Schacht to the inside of Bobby Jacks now as they come into corner number 1. Schacht to the inside going into 2nd position, and Jacks drops back to 3rd. Now we'll see if Bob Schacht can grab the lead from Bosco Low. They're out of corner number 1 now onto the Long Pond straightaway. A great battle for the lead up front. Bob Schacht now right behind Bosco Low as they head once again for the tunnel turn with 17 more laps to go.
The auto body man from Lombard, Illinois. He started 11th in this race. Remember, they did not qualify. Positions were simply determined by drawing here at the racetrack this week. But Schacht, despite a number of pit stops, looks like he's got the setup to beat here this weekend at Pocono.
This is the second appearance for the ARCA cars here at Pocono International Raceway. They competed here in 1983 in a 150-mile race, and Bob Shack was the winner of that race, and now Shack putting pressure on Bosco Lowe. They're side by side as they go into the corner number 1. Let's see how they stack up single file through there. Bob Shack is going to grab the lead. Jacks moves to second and Bosco Lowe to third.
Yeah, Bobby Jack saw an opportunity. He went right behind Bob Shack, and he knew he would get just enough of a draft to get to the inside of Bosco Lowe, and that's exactly what happened. Bob Shack, car number 75, he has led more laps than any other active race driver. He actually leads active ARCA drivers, that is. Here comes Bosco back again. There goes Jackson the high side. Shack is the guy who has led more laps than any other active ARCA driver. He has more wins, and he also has more poles, so it's not so surprising that he is fast. But look at Jax, whose car from time to time has seemed to be set up just perfectly for this compromise-requiring racetrack.
This has been an unbelievably exciting race here this afternoon.
Look at Jax.
Now Jax right up on the back bumper. They touch in turn number 3. Jax down to the inside, almost losing control, coming out of corner number 3, staying in second position, although Bosco Lowe now moves alongside and passes Bobby Jax. Bosco Lowe moves back into second as Jax drops to third.
And Lee Raymond stays right there. He hasn't lost it yet. You know, that was an unusual corner. It looked like Jax really had the competitive edge over Bob Shack. But when they made contact, Jack suddenly slowed down and Shack streaked away. As a matter of fact, he went away so fast and Jack slowed down so much, and here comes Bosco back. Now Bosco going for the lead one more time. Look at him go.
Into the tunnel turn, Bosco Lowe to the inside, and he passes Bob Shack, and Lowe moves into the lead. You know, these invitational challenge races are becoming quite popular. We have the Winston involving former winners and the Busch Clash involving pole position winners in Grand National Racing. There's International Race of Champion competitions throughout the year, and this ARCA Challenge has certainly not disappointed us this afternoon. It's been a great race.
Well, Shack is dirt tracking. There is Bosco Lowe, the picture of the man who's now leading the race. Shack is beginning to lose some of the edge that he had in terms of handling and setup. Now watch his horsepower kick in. He may not have the right line going into turn number 1. Now Bosco wiggles a little bit. That'll cost him. Shack gets the advantage. He can dart down low now and come out the lead. Will Jax hollow through? Yes. And the first 3 positions change one more time. And here comes Jax.
Jax moving inside off the corner, takes the lead, and Shack back to second spot. All of this going on ahead of Lee Raymond, who just kind of is sitting back there in 4th position watching these guys battle it out.
Yeah, he's an interesting case now. Here comes Shack back again.
The second turn.
They can't pass on that corner.
Well, they're proving us wrong, that's for sure.
I'll tell you, these guys have gotten the racetrack down. I think one of the factors that has come up here is that we're watching relatively evenly matched cars, and the drivers are beginning to learn how to get around Pocono fast. I really thought that once Shack got the lead, he would run away and hide, but Jax has held on, and Bosco Lowe has stayed right there, and you keep mentioning Raymond, and that's right. See him, that bright orange car? He is certainly not out of it.
Not out of it by any means, and not too far back of Lee Raymond. In 5th position is Bob Dotter in car number 83. He's about 20 or 25 car lengths behind Lee Raymond, and closing the gap, as you can see, he's the 5th car there in the line, Bob Dotter.
Well, the other thing that has happened the last couple of laps, despite all this heated activity, no smoke from Bobby Jack's car. So could it be that whatever was wrong was just temporary and no longer is a problem?
Well, Jack Arute is roving around down in the pit area and has found another, shall we say, unusual pit crew member. Jack?
What we have found, gentlemen, is a glutton for punishment. See this back? Look at this face. He was on Bob Brevac's pits. He's on Bobby Allison's crew this afternoon. And now Davey Allison has showed up in Bobby Jack's pits. What are you doing here, Davey?
Well, a couple weeks ago, I had a problem, Jackie, up north, and I was stuck there by myself and didn't have any help. And a couple of Bobby Jack's crew members offered to give me a hand. Gary Meager and Mike Heitz and Robbie, that works for Bobby Jack's, offered to give me a hand, and today they need a little help. So they asked me, and I'm willing to help them. They help me.
Could be that's a little on-the-job training for tomorrow, too, for Davey Allison.
Hey, Jack, didn't he also change his shirt, too?
Oh, yeah, he's a quick change artist. He can go all the way around.
The average speed at the end of 40 laps, and we've completed 48, 105.109 miles an hour. Bob Shack, Bobby Jax, and Bosco Lowe are up front, back in just a moment. The Winners so far this year in ARCA racing. Davey Allison has 3 victories. Ed Haig has won the last 2 races in ARCA. Glenn Sears has a couple of victories early in the year. Bill Venturini also a winner, and Kirk Bryant has a victory to his credit in 1985. There is Bob Schacht in car number 75. He's the leader of our race. Right there in second position is Bobby Jacks. Bosco Lowe continuing to run third, and Lee Raymond fourth. And they are about to complete lap number 50, so we've got 10 more laps to go.
Schacht has been trying to stay away from the draft that Bobby Jacks obviously is trying to suck into coming down the long stretch. You saw that last lap, Schacht going way low on the front stretch. He is trying to shake what draft there is here at Pocono so that he can run away from Bobby Jacks, but Jacks has been doing a pretty good job. And again, I want to cite the setup on the Jacks car. Now, this is a race car that is suitable for a large number of racetracks, and frankly speaking, it just shouldn't do that well on a long paved racetrack. And again, remember, we mentioned earlier that this is a compromised racetrack, and maybe this is the right kind of racetrack for this kind of car. Jack's doing an excellent job keeping up, and what I think he is at is a disadvantage in horsepower, but doing a very good job getting around the turns. Now, there's the third running Bosco Lowe.
There is Bob Schacht, the leader. In second position is the number 71 of Bobby Jacks. You can see how close they are. Third place is Bosco Lowe, car number 38. They come off of corner number 3 and continue to run in that position. Lee Raymond is in fourth spot, and Bob Donner runs fifth. Then in sixth is Glenn Sears. Seventh position belongs to Dave Simcoe. Eighth is number 12, Kirk Bryant. In ninth position is Don Marmer, and 10th is Tom Meinberg, car number 98, who is the pole sitter for today's race.
Bobby Jacks running in second place in that red, white, and blue number 71. Remember, again, we saw this very car win on dirt at Eldora Speedway in an earlier ESPN broadcast a couple years ago. He's from the Dayton, Ohio area. Actually, he's a neighbor, or used to be a neighbor, of Larry Moore. Now, there's Kirk Bryant. Recognize that car, Al Ugard, same sponsor as Rusty Wallace's Grand National car. Reason being that this is the son of Darrell Bryant, who obviously is very instrumental in working on his son's car running in ARCA competition.
And Don Marmer in car number 50 is running behind Kirk Bryant. Marmer from North Lake, Illinois, in that Lombard Auto Wrecking Pontiac.
Well, they crashed pretty heavy a week ago at Flat Rock, Michigan, and they've done a lot of work to get this particular green and white number 50 ready for the competition here this weekend. They also were among those who worked all last night and the early hours of this morning to get onto the racetrack here at Pocono. Currently ranked 7th in the 1985 ARCA standings.
Well, the battle for the lead has settled down just a little bit as Schacht has held it now for the last few laps. Bobby Jacks running second. In the interval back to the third place, Bosco Lowe has opened up even further. Back in just a moment at Pocono. Bob Schacht continues to lead this ARCA Fram Autolite Challenge Series race with Bobby Jacks running in second position, followed by Bosco Lowe. Then in fourth spot is Lee Raymond. Bob Donner is running fifth, and Glenn Sears is sixth. The average speed continues to go up. It's up to 111.084 miles an hour. In the last race that was held here for the ARCA cars back in '83, the average speed for the race was 123.288. And I don't think we're going to make that, mainly because of our 3 caution periods we've had here today.
When we started this race, here comes Bosco Lowe to the inside of Bobby Jackson. There's been a change in the top 3 one more time. Bosco Lowe is now the runner-up car. Jacks has really drifted the last lap and a half. You can see Lowe putting some distance immediately between himself and Jacks, and Bob Schacht has used this opportunity to pull away. When we started this race, we began with 7 short-track cars originally built and designed for short-track racing, 3 super speedway cars, 1 dyed-in-the-wool dirt track race car, that was Tommy Meinberg's, and 4 one-car operations. And 2 of those 4 one-car operations, Bobby Jacks currently running in third, and guess what? The leader, Bob Schacht. 1-car operation, 1 car fits all, universal race car leading this race.
And you can see that Bobby Jacks is dropping off the pace. He is going very slow in corner number 3. It looks like Bobby Jacks is coming into the pit area. So a tough break for Bobby Jacks, who had run so strong in this race. There he is, limping toward the pit area, just 5 laps from the checkered flag.
He really didn't deserve that to happen. You know, he has a birthday coming up next Wednesday. His mechanic, who works for Embry Air Freight, by the way, in the Dayton, Ohio area. He ran, I think, maybe the best race of everybody out there today, because I felt he was doing an excellent job getting through the corners. And like I said, he just didn't deserve, Bob, to have this car fall on him.
Pulling the car directly into the garage area, so Bobby Jack's race is over. So now it becomes a two-car battle between Bob Shack and Bosco Lowe. Let's go down to Jackaroo.
For Bobby Jacks, the problem was not in the engine. It was in the drivetrain, though. The quick change gears went away on the car, and they can't get up to speed because they're not being able to harness the power from the motor back to the rear end. So a tough break. The engine's still going, but they can't do anything with the horsepower.
All right, thank you, Jack. Here's Bob Shack coming down the straightaway. And there is about 3-second interval between him and Bosco Lowe. And then there is a considerable distance back to the third place Lee Raymond. Shack has this thing in his pocket if the car can hold up.
Yeah, that's Kirk Bryant right there in that red, white, and blue car getting way high out of the groove, but I think he was just giving some room to Bosco Lowe. There is Shack. You get an idea of the interval as our camera pulls back going down the Long Pond backstretch. The second car there. Now in the middle of the screen is Bosco Lowe, the yellow blue numeral number 38. The guy from the south who runs with the ARCA cars, he's a consistent ARCA racer. This guy from Lombard, Illinois, up in the Chicago area, is definitely a Midwestern racer and an ARCA veteran. And Bosco has used the 1985 season as an opportunity to run full-time with the ARCA cars.
It has not been a particularly good race for car number 98, Tom Meinberg from Hamilton, Ohio. He was the pole sitter here this afternoon, and again, the starting positions were determined by draw, not by qualifying. Meinberg drew the pole position, but at the drop of the green flag, the car did not perform well. Right now, he is shown in 10th spot.
Well, he's crashed heavily at Atlanta and Daytona earlier this year. He's had some motor problems. Matter of fact, they've gone clean through 2 engines. But this guy is a veteran campaigner. He runs on all types of racetracks like many of these ARCA guys do, and he'll be back. But the interesting thing about this car is that basically, can you believe this? This is a 1965 Ford chassis that has continually been updated year after year to run an ARCA competition.
Whereas NASCAR Grand National cars have to be within 3 years old, ARCA cars can be within 5 years old. There's the leader, Bob Shack, turn number 2. He'll come down and complete lap number 58 this time around. And you can see that Bosco Lowe is not all that far behind. As a matter of fact, he's been closing in on Shack the last couple of laps, but I think Shack is going to win.
Yeah, he looks pretty strong and looks just about invincible right now. It's a little bit out of the groove there coming around turn number 4, but it's getting late in the race. The track is getting a little warmer. Some cars have laid down some oil, most notably Bobby Brevac when he lost an engine coming out of turn number 3. So the groove, particularly on a flat turn like the one there at number 3, has a tendency to move out. You can afford to just let the car slide a little further out coming around the corner and not have the fear of somebody getting underneath you, because down there in the bottom, the centrifugal force will just throw you right out of the groove and into the wall because it gets so slippery about this time of the afternoon after a long race.
Again, we invite you to be with us at 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon live here on ESPN for the running of the Summer 500 Grand National race. And there are so many interesting stories going on now in Grand National racing, and you'll want to be tuned to that event. That, of course, will follow the British Grand Prix, which will be on live tomorrow morning with Jackie Stewart and John Bizignano here on ESPN. Lee Raymond and Bob Donner running 3rd and 4th.
Horsepower, I'll bet you, against the veteran Bob Donner. Not that Lee Raymond is not a veteran. He's been with ARCA a long time. Matter of fact, racing has been in his family also. His father, Joe Raymond, is a long-time driver from the Dayton, Ohio area. He and his dad still run a radiator shop in Dayton, Ohio, as a matter of fact. Those of you who follow ARCA racing or perhaps have seen the Raymonds run may remember the maroon and pink painted number 99, one of the legendary cars in the Midwest. I know the combination sounds ugly, but I'm telling you, it's beautiful, Bob. I've seen the car many times when they used to race it, and it looked nice.
Bob Shack is less than a lap away from the checkered flag. Harold Kinder, the official starter for NASCAR Grand National Racing, has displayed the white. Bob Shack moving into the tunnel turn, coming out of it, now onto the short straightaway, leading to turn number 3, and Bob Shack is just a short distance away from the checkered flag. Bosco Lowe hanging in there in 2nd position. But Shack looks like that he is going to take his 2nd ARCA win here at Pocono International Raceway. He comes off of corner number 3. That's Dave Simcoe that he'll have to pass to take the checkered flag. There it is. Bob Shack has won the ARCA Challenge race. Roscoe Lowe finishes in second spot. Here is third and fourth coming down for the checkered. Lee Raymond takes third. Bob Donner fourth. Glenn Sears in fifth, followed by Kirk Bryant and Don Marmer.
Well, for Mr. Shack, he would probably like to see ARCA come here and race more often. This has been a very good racetrack for Bob Shack. As Bob Jenkins mentioned a little earlier, he won the last time the ARCA cars were here, and now he picks up this special challenge race in 1985.
15 cars started this 150-lap race, and 9 were running at the finish, led by Bob Shack, car number 75. Unofficially, the top 6 finishers, Shack, Lowe, and Lee Raymond. 4th through 6th, Bob Donner, Glenn Sears, and Dave Simcoe. So Shack will be coming around and moving into victory lane, where Jack Arute will be talking with him. We'll be back for that interview in just a moment. Bob Shack has moved into victory lane, and Jack Arute is there to talk with him. Jack?
How you doing, buddy?
Well, Bob, congratulations. Fantastic run this afternoon, and you've won here before. Is this one a little better?
Well, I'll say. This one I really worked for. The last one we ran out of gas. This one I had to drive my rear end off.
There was a lot of dicing for the front positions. Now, was that all in jest, or was it all real serious?
No, that was work, Al. That was work.
Any problems there out on the racetrack, though? Because you're pretty well covered with the soot and the battle scars of going 150 miles here. It looks like maybe you're a little more worn out than you'd expect.
Well, I'll say too much partying last night. A couple of the guys were a lot tougher than I expected them to be. You know, it just, the car, we loosened up the car in the middle of the race, and it was okay. It made the car go faster through the corners, but it was still a little slippery coming off the floor, so, and they had a little more motor than we did, you know, but it wasn't bad.
Are you saying, Bob, that maybe you were a little bit like a boxer that goes into an event, figures that maybe it'll go 10 rounds instead of the normal 15, and doesn't train as hard as he should? That's the way you looked at this event?
Yeah, I'll tell you, this engineered bastard Pontiac, we thrashed in his car like wild men. I'm telling you, we worked our butts off to win this race, not including me, the whole crew.
Well, it's a very happy Bob Shack. The crew will invade here momentarily, and we're going to go back up to Bob and Larry.
All right, thank you, and congratulations to Bob Shack. The Winner's Circle interview has been brought to you by Goodyear. Goodyear tires and Goodyear service for more good years in your car.